All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. My name is Kyle Demian. I am joined here with Renji Matthew, as always. And then today, we also have a special guest. We've got Quinn joining us, or Money Man Quinn, on social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram too, right?
Yeah, TikTok, Instagram, yep.
Awesome. And Quinn is going to share his insights as in the past, he sold cars. And Quinn, kind of fill us in. What brand of cars did you sell and how long did you do it for?
So I've been in the auto industry for 10 years. So it was 8 years of travel. I guess maybe pushing 11 years, but 8 years of travel with General Motors. So I've basically been with General Motors the whole time. And then after that, pandemic killed that job and I jumped into car sales. Never wanted to sell cars. I had talked to more than enough salespeople, managers that were at the auto show events, because it was all auto show events for corporate around the US. Talked to more than enough car salesmen, because everyone would tell me, hey, I want to buy a car from you. Like, because I would just be helping people with the general information of the car. And they're like, oh man, you're so nice. Can I buy a car from you? What's your card? So I started asking, hey, like, how do you like car sales? Blah, blah, blah. I got a very similar answer of do not do it. I do not like it. And you get stuck in it because you build a book of business. And then every 3 years, 2 to 3 years, you just have people calling you and you have referrals, even if you're not even that great of a salesperson. So it's easy to get stuck into. Never wanted to do it. Got forced into it for the pandemic. Sold cars all the way through the pandemic and a little bit after it, and then just got out of there. I could tell very quickly within about 6 to 8 months that I did not want to do this. And there was a lot of kind of hidden information that I slowly realized was happening because it was a need to know basis at the dealership I was working at. And so I learned a lot. Unfortunately, and asked a lot of questions that they did not want me to ask, and was kind of creating some friction.
They did not want you to ask. Who are you referencing? The owners and the managers?
Owner was never really there. He was one of those guys who, I mean, he was there on Monday or whatever to clean up all the stuff after the weekend and look at paperwork. But he was one of those owners that really, if anything, he'd just say hello to you and he would go straight to his office. He wanted a buffer zone between everybody, but the managers, yeah, all the managers were just they would tell me certain things, and then in the beginning I would go straight to the customer and tell them because it would sound legit. But then 6, 8, or maybe 8 to 10 months later, I started realizing, oh, okay, that's not the truth. Like, that's not the truth. And then there's one sales guy that we could go to, because General Motors salespeople, they do not get taught how to work numbers like a manager, but Mercedes does. So if you go to Mercedes as a salesperson, you get taught how to work numbers and you are the finance person. So they don't make you get up and wait to go to a finance office. You do the numbers and you can give them quotes. You don't have to get up from your desk and go talk to the manager to sell this car. You just know how to work the numbers. So one of our salesperson had been to Mercedes because he quit Cadillac. I was selling for Cadillac, General Motors, also Buick and GMC was right next door, and I could walk over there because our dealership was combined, so I could flip people to Buicks, which was kind of hard because they're all coming in there for a Cadillac, so nobody wants a Buick when you're looking at a Cadillac. But I could do it a few times, and then also for trucks because I could sell the wife a Escalade, and if the husband was there, I could go sell him a truck next door. And that dealership right next door worked completely different than the dealership I was at, and is owned by the same family, owns both dealerships, quote unquote. But one family member is running Cadillac, another family member is running Buick GMC, and in a different management too. So I liked selling for Buick GMC way more than I liked selling for Cadillac because of the way it was managed, if that makes sense, which is pretty wild to know that, because it's owned by the same family, has the same family in the name, and then it's operated completely differently on both sides in the same parking lot. So,
Wow.
yeah, and different greed levels or trust levels on both sides, basically.
Absolutely. And you'd mentioned hidden information. And that is a perfect segue to what we're going to start talking about, what we're going to go through today. And, we're going to title this video, Former Car Salesman Exposes the Car Sales Secrets, because as we talked a little bit before the show, Quinn, there's just a lot of things and a lot of ways that dealerships, car salesmen, whether they know it or not, because like you kind of mentioned, you can't really control the deal. You got to go to the desk and get numbers,
Yeah.
right? But these car dealerships, uh, what would you say? Take advantage of uninformed buyers, essentially, right?
Yes. Yes, they do. And I always get a lot of trash in my comments. It's always from salespeople. It's always from people in the business. It's never from like a random
Yeah.
non car salesperson. But for me, quote unquote, trashing profit. And it's like I'm not trashing profit at all. Until the car model changes and you look at the price on the internet and then you come in and buy the car for the exact same price, there's going to be no issue with this profit scenario. And I have no issue with capitalism and profit or anything like that. But until they get to that point where there is no negotiation, I'm going to offer my services to help to teach people how to negotiate car deals, because the amount of profit is different at each dealership. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, and they always try to compare it to a grocery store. Well, do you know how much they're charging you for eggs? And I'm like, this is the worst comparison ever. Like, if I could negotiate the price of eggs at the register, I would do it. You're talking
Yeah.
to the wrong guy. I love confrontational like scenarios, sales scenarios. I know a lot of people don't, but I love it. So it's like, if I was there and it was negotiable for my carton of eggs, I would negotiate it, but it's not. And when the
Yeah.
car industry turns into the Tesla model, because Teslas are not negotiable, you order it, you see the price, you wait 2 months, you get your Tesla, it's the exact same price, and that's it. So until it all changes to that, then I'm going to keep offering my services and offering to help people with negotiation, because not all dealerships are created equal. And I always have to do that disclaimer. Not all dealerships are bad. Not all salespeople are bad. They're not all lying to you, but
True.
we just have to protect ourselves from the ones that are, until it changes and it's non negotiable anymore.
Mhm.
And you never know until you know, right? Like they could seem like they're the nicest people, the
Oh, yeah.
nicest salespeople, but there's so many tactics and strategies. And I have a little bit of knowledge and background of the car industry. My dad is still selling cars, and he's been doing it. I think he actually just hit his 30th year. He's been doing
Oh,
it like
wow.
since high school. So I'm a little bit familiar of it. And in talking about getting stuck, it happens to a lot of salespeople. He's worked with some of the same guys for 20 plus years.
Oh, yeah.
And you're right, and the pay can be good because there's some of these negotiation tactics, sales strategies that are built in to help them, potentially make a couple hundred, a couple $1,000s maybe on some sales, depending on what dealership you're at. I know it varies and
Mhm.
stuff, but so that's awesome. And so you kind of dove into it. You spent some time selling cars. Now you kind of learned how, the car industry makes profit, how the salesmen, make money. And you decided that you wanted to flip the script and actually help people negotiate car deals. So tell us about that. Start talking about if there was there a particular moment when you realized you wanted to start helping people to do this?
So even not while I was at the job, it was more so looking back on it. But even the very first car that I helped my dad get from that dealership, which is a Tahoe, a used Tahoe, after the fact, because this was in the first 3 months, 4 months that I worked there, so it was before I figured out a lot of the stuff I figured out 8, 10 months later. We got taken advantage of in that car deal. It could have been a better car deal. I mean, yes, they gave us a discount from what it said on the website. Yes, it looked good. Yes, it was $2,500 off or 3 grand, but it was a used car. It wasn't a new one. But I just know they owned that vehicle for way less, and they overcharged even us. So even the dealership I worked for, I was a W-2 employee at that point on the roster, and they still took advantage of me. And the thing is, though, too, is that the turnover rate is so high. So usually after 3 months, the turnover rate is aggressive for salespeople, because they don't even get trained. They most of the time just get thrown out there. None of the salespeople want to help them because they don't want them taking money from them. And then the salespeople that you do get help from, they're just trying to snake you, because they're trying to snake you out of half a deal. And they're going to sit there and hold your hand, sort of let you go talk to the customer, but then you come help them and get half your money for those car deals. And so it's like it's weird. You're even in competition with the entire sales floor all your coworkers because it's a cutthroat scenario. And it's so basically that's what motivated me to do it. It's like if they're going to take advantage of me as a consumer, or sorry, as an employee of the same dealership and not care anything about me, like they're taking advantage of these other people that have zero education on it. Because I had zero education on it at that point. I bought the
Mm.
car as a basically as an uneducated consumer. There was no trade in or anything like that. So luckily they didn't have any, like, it didn't have multiple ways of taking advantage of us. But we definitely overpaid a little bit for that vehicle because I helped him pay for it because I know that vehicle is going to be mine in the future because my dad is a older guy and he wants a different vehicle at some point, most likely. So that'll be mine. So I helped him pay for it.
That's cool.
So go into a little bit about when was you talked about you've been having that viewpoint for a long time. When did you exactly start doing that, where you were helping other people negotiate and teaching them those?
Pretty much right when I was like 2020 2022 October 2022 is when I was gone from that dealership, and then November I posted my first video about car sales stuff, and it went viral, like the first one I ever posted. It was wild, and but it was just me telling a story of how you can get taken advantage of and how the salesperson makes money, and so I got a little traction from that out of the gate, but I didn't have an offer ready. I had no payment plan. I didn't have any offer ready. So there were a couple people that reached out and I helped, but I was just throwing numbers at them and creating a
Yeah.
little quick stripe payment and sending it to them and just seeing if they would accept it. So pretty much, yeah, right out of the gate, I was helping people.
So you just posted something just to post, and you didn't realize how many people needed help, and it just started out of necessity for others that you
Yeah,
started.
no, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That's
basically,
awesome.
basically.
That's really cool because hey, you didn't. We talk about this on the podcast of how people are too scared to jump into doing something, right? A lot of times do they have they do all the research they need to, but they never take action.
Yeah,
And then there's people like us that might post something, might not know enough about it, but know some. And then when the need arises, we're like, okay, we're gonna figure this out and keep going. So that's
yeah,
kind of what you did there, right?
yeah. I mean, I still get in my own head for sure.
Yeah.
Like I haven't posted in like I don't know a week or 10 days, which I shouldn't. I have videos like ready to roll, but I've been like just getting in my own way, man. And I know it's all me. It's 100% me in my brain. And I was talking to Kyle on the phone a week ago, whenever I talked to him, or 4 days ago about this but I know it's 100% me. It's 100% me getting in my own way, worrying about what others are going to think about me that I have not seen anywhere in real life except for on the screen of my phone, but it's people that I
Yeah.
went to high school with. And but I have not seen these people. I literally haven't seen or talked to these people in over 2 decades at this point, basically. And it's pretty ridiculous that that's still in the back of my head, but it's going away soon. It's gonna happen, and I'm just gonna put my foot on the gas and just go.
That's good.
Absolutely. Are you still going live every day? Because you were going live pretty often. I've seen a few of them.
I was going live every day, and then I started catching this TikTok restriction of branded content and not suitable for 18 and under. So it was like slaughtering my
That's
lives,
weird.
and it could have just been a hater because it's just the TikTok algorithm listens to the people. So it could just be a hater coming in there and saying this guy's promoting something, and this is not suitable for 18 and under, which is, I guess
Oh,
it's
that's
not,
crazy.
but it's suitable for like 15 and up because that's when
Yeah,
you're going to buy a car. So
for
it's a
sure.
little bit of 18 and under, not a 12-year-old, but I'm
Yeah,
not cursing or anything. So they still could learn as a 12-year-old how to buy a car. So I think it was
yeah.
really just a hater, or maybe the TikTok algorithm kind of catching some weird words.
Probably some
Hmm.
salesmen getting upset, right? Revealing their secrets.
No, they do. I had to stop kind of talking back to some of my commenters, like the negative comments, because they have the power
Yeah.
uh, in the TikTok live
Hmm.
scenario. So
Well, the good news is we're not on TikTok, right? We're on a podcast that we're going to post here on YouTube. So let's start going over some of those secrets. And I guess you can reveal as much or as little as you want. And I know you're going to want to reveal as much as you want, but I guess like where should we start? Like if somebody's going to go to buy a car, what are some of the things that they should be aware of and know like, hey, I got to be careful here because if I'm not, it's going to cost me, like we're talking about potentially thousands of dollars
Oh yeah.
that they could save and instead goes to the dealership for extra fees and what have you. So like where should we start, Quinn? Like what kind of knowledge bombs can you drop on us so that our viewers can save money and save thousands of dollars the next time that they go to the dealership?
Okay, so going off a couple of assumptions, the assumptions would be most people have it narrowed down to they want this car or they want this other car. They're usually not looking at 10 different cars or 50. So most people have it narrowed down to one or two cars. So that means you most likely have a range of, okay, this car is going to cost me $30,000 up to brand new $45,000 if you're looking at new and used and depending on your mileage. So going with that assumption that you already have a general idea of what you want and what the price is going to be and or you calculated your payment, you really need to get a pre-approval. And the pre-approval is good for 30 days. And you are probably not going to use your pre-approval. You might, but you have to just protect yourself and show the dealership, I am educated. I'm educated. If you try to give me a bad interest rate, if you try to mark up my rate aggressively, I will not finance with you and you will not get any more of my money. I am going to outside finance with my credit union or my bank. You usually want to start at a credit union because they're usually the best rates, but every now and then, depending on your bank, because you have a relationship already built with your bank, they might give you the best rate. But after that, you still fill out the dealership's credit app and you still let the dealership pull your credit all over again and try to beat your rate. But you have a ceiling on them. So you have a ceiling of, if it's let's say it's a used car, so you have an 8 or a 9% rate in the used car market, which would be okay right now. So you put a ceiling. So if they don't get you approved at 8% or better, then they don't get your business, but you protect yourself from them getting you approved at, let's say, 8%, but then they mark you up to 9 or 10 if you go in there empty handed. And then whatever they mark you up, those extra points that they mark you up, that goes to the finance guy and that goes to the dealership. And the bank still. So I basically say, cut out the middleman. Cut out the middleman, because any middleman scenario, the middleman wants their cut. So protect yourself, bring in a pre-approval, but still the dealership has really good relationships with a lot of banks and they can pull strings. And then some banks owe these dealerships favors. So sometimes when a customer gets approved for, let's say, 7%, the bank might owe them a favor, which I don't know exactly why, but that just because they send so much business to each other and they have such a good relationship, basically. So you could potentially get another point off, and then the dealership maybe could take that other point and then say, hey, you're approved at 7%, but the bank really approved them at 6, but they marked it back up to 7, but it still beat your 8% pre-approval, which is weird. But either way, whatever, let's not stress about that. They got a better rate. They saved me money. Even if they're marking it up, it's cool, whatever. But that's how you at least protect yourself with a ceiling with your rate. So that's how you do it in terms of interest rate, is just, and you have a 30-day car buying window, because some people will say, oh man, I don't want, my credit's going to hit 8, 9, 10 times and then it's going to kill my credit. Okay, yeah, you're correct, but it's only going to look bad for a couple of weeks. You have a 30-day car buying window to shop your interest rate. After you buy one car, those credit bureaus will see, okay, there's 15 credit hits, but they bought one car, they didn't buy 15, so it consolidates into one credit hit. So shop your rate is a way to 100% save money, or at least protect yourself.
That makes a lot of sense. And then like I like that because you can, number one, like you mentioned, go to a bank or credit union beforehand. And by doing that and getting a pre-approval, you are eliminating that middleman. And like you said, setting a cap, right? They approve you at 7%, hey, going into the dealership, like they can't try to give you a 10% rate and say, hey, this is the best we could do based on your credit, which is probably what they say most of the time, right?
Yeah.
They blame it on your credit when it's, them marking it up, which a lot of people listening probably don't even know that. You did a good job explaining it because I was going to ask you, but yeah, the bank may tell the dealership,
Yep.
hey, Quinn is approved at a 7% rate. Dealership turns around and says, hey, the best we can do is 9.2. And they're
Mhm.
keeping that 2% spread as just profit every single
Yep.
time you make your payment, right? Or however they calculate, however they figure it in, but that's profit for the dealership, right?
Exactly.
So
Yep.
that's good. So that's a good way to, before you even go to the dealership, what can you do to protect yourself?
Mhm.
And what about when you're at the dealership? And you kind of mentioned, going in, usually landing on 1 to 2 vehicles. What if there's a magical question that I've heard you talk about before? What's the magical question that a consumer should never answer when they walk in a door when the car salesman asks them?
So it's the payment question. It's just like, hey, what payment can we get you to? And the salesperson or dealership or manager or whoever it is in the dealership is going to throw it back at you. Well, we want to make sure you're on the right car. But it can be a very loaded question to, okay, what's this person's budget? Okay, what's this person? How much money does this person have? It's a very loaded question that they're just trying to qualify you. They're just trying to qualify you and quote unquote not waste their time. Even they're going to say, hey, we don't want to waste your time. We don't want you looking at an $80,000 vehicle when you can really only afford a $40,000 vehicle. But that gets completely eliminated if you just do my very first tip that I gave of get a pre-approval. If you get a pre-approval, you know what you can afford, you know what your payment's going to be, and you know you're looking at the right car. So you're not wasting the salesperson's time or your time. But a big reason why I say don't payment shop is because they always will have a payment range. They'll say, oh, you can get me to $500 or to $600. Well, guess what? A $500 payment versus a $600 payment is a $5,000 difference in out the door price because it changes by $20 per $1,000. So $5,000, it could be a $45,000 out the door price versus a $40,000 out the door price. It's going to change your payment by $100. So the payment always looks about the same when it's the car price is going up and down by thousands of dollars. So that's why I say don't shop by the payment, because it's just they can manipulate it in so many ways. The term, the trade value, the extra packages, the price of the car, tons of different ways they can manipulate that payment, interest rate.
And that's because it's usually a 60, 72, or even like an 84-month term. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a $5,000 difference can be, especially if you're doing 84 months, what's the difference in payment per thousand? It's probably like what, $10 a month?
Yeah, it's a little less. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
Or
gosh, that's
wait,
insane.
well, yeah, it's a little less because it's spread out by more. And I tell people never
Yeah,
to do 84-month loans, to avoid 84-month loans at all possible, at all possibility, because it's just going to get you typically in a negative equity situation because your car is depreciating quicker than what you're actually paying because your interest rate's higher, you're paying less towards the principal, and then also your payment is not very high. So
yeah.
you're not catching up with that with your depreciation. Is what I always like to. So I always go 72 months or below is what y'all need to focus on. And unfortunately, if you cannot afford the 72-month payment, we're
Shouldn't
probably
do
looking at,
84.
yeah, we shouldn't. We're probably on the wrong car. Even
Yeah,
if you need it
Yeah.
and you want it or whatever you're telling yourself, your bank account tells you that that's not a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then with that, so that's, that's all pre landing on a car, deciding what car you want. Once, let's say you've landed on a car, and especially if you come in with a pre-approval letter and you're ready to go,
Mhm.
what are some other things that people should look at? Like once the salesman brings over, the first proposal, and you're actually starting to look at the numbers and the negotiations. But like now that I'm thinking about it, if you come in with the pre-approval, that eliminates like a lot of the hassle you typically go through, right? So
Yeah.
that's a really good idea. But say people didn't have a pre-approval, like when the salesman comes out with the first set of numbers, and I feel like every car dealership does it a little bit differently. You've seen the four
Oh yeah. They do.
square sales
They do.
close. Some people come out with a full, document, line by line, itemized. And like, what are
Yeah.
some things that people should be aware of when it actually comes to the negotiation and the numbers are first being presented?
Well, so you want this is the way my dealership did it too, but you want the itemized breakdown. You have to see everything. You don't want them just to tell you what your payment is or what the out the door price is, because There's so much stuff in between. So first off, you don't ever want to pay for any dealership add-on extra fee, like window tint maybe, but you need to ask questions. You need to ask, do you window tint every single window? Do you use ceramic window tint that actually blocks the heat and the light, or are you just using cheap stuff? I know that because I'm in Texas, and like you, you need all your windows tinted, just like y'all are y'all both in Florida?
No, I'm in Oklahoma.
You're in Oklahoma. Okay,
Yep.
nice. But
So
Kyle,
right
you're in
above
Florida,
you.
though, right?
Yeah.
Well,
So
Oklahoma too.
yeah, well, I was living in Florida the last 3 years, and we actually just moved back up to Ohio.
Oh,
But
did you?
you know what's funny? I got my windows tinted in Ohio before I moved down to Florida, and being
As you
down in
should.
Florida for 2 years, like the back windows all bubbled up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't think they
But
use
it's
ceramic,
more, it's
but
cheaper up north though. From when I talk to people, window tint, because nobody really gets it
no,
like
I
they
think
do
it's
in
like
the South.
$150 or something.
Yeah, and it's like four or $500 here, which is still not bad, and it's worth it. But yeah,
Yeah.
no. So I know you got to tint all the windows. Like the dealership I worked for, they would only tint the front two windows, and then the factory would kind of tint the other back windows because it was a Cadillac and they wanted it to look sporty. So they would already have a tint
Yeah.
on it, but it wouldn't block the heat, wouldn't really block the light.
Hmm.
It was just kind of like a bad pair of sunglasses. But they could get away with only tinting the front two windows, not even the second row, and say, hey, we put window tint on your car. And if no one asked, then it's like, but if they asked
Mhm.
me, I'm 100% telling them, oh, it's only on the front two windows. Like I would tell you. But if they didn't ask, I didn't tell them because that's not a good
Yeah.
way to sell window tint. If, oh, it's only on the front two windows. It's like, well, that's kind of not what I'm paying for here, but all right. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so just certain stuff like that, nitrogen filled tires, window tint, low jack, vehicle theft registration, um, GPS trackers, VIN. They'll sometimes sketch the VIN into the window, and it's some sort of theft deterrent to where if it has a VIN on the window, they might not steal your car because it's going to be harder to get rid of your car. Allegedly, I don't know if it's true or not. My dealership never offered that, but I know Las Vegas and Atlanta and those types of cities kind of have more of those things offered at their car dealerships because there's so many vehicles that are stolen all the time, especially
Mhm.
in Atlanta. It's real bad in Atlanta.
What if
Hmm.
they say that that package is required? Like, can you get out of it? Or what if they're what if the dealership says that like it's required, you have to do it? Because I know there's some
Mhm.
dealerships that charge these packages and you quote unquote can't take it off,
Oh yeah.
probably unless you ask, 4, 5, 6 times. But
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody like that if they ran across that in a dealership? Because I know that is common.
If you're talking to your salesperson, then you could ask to talk to the manager, and then if the manager's not doing it for you and you have to purchase at this dealership, you could maybe talk to the owner, but it's doubtful. That only happened once or twice when I was working at Cadillac, and it was because the consumer actually had like a friend that maybe knew the owner, and that's the only way they could ever get all the way up the line. So you could talk to the manager and see if they could do it. Most likely, they're still not going to take it off because the salesperson would take it off. They don't care. They just want to sell another car, and that package is only going to give them $50 more of commission. It's not going to give them anything. So the salesperson really could care less about that package in terms of making money off of it. But it's going to be talk to the manager, see what happens. Worst case scenario, and this happens often, you need to just go on to the next dealership. We need to move on to the next dealership and try all over again, especially if you're buying a new car. If you're buying a new car, there's going to be another one somewhere else. It might not be the closest Chevrolet dealership to your house, but it doesn't matter if it's going to save you $2,500 of dealership add-ons just to go 30 minutes down the road, and then you're stuck with that car for 72 months or 6 years. In my opinion, it's worth it. And then sometimes you can just get them to deliver the car, especially if it's a new car.
Yeah.
Just deliver the car to my house. It's brand new. It's covered under warranty. If you just so happen to get a lemon, well, guess what? You still wouldn't have known that at the dealership with your test drive just around the block. You still would have bought the car. And that's a lemon law. That's a whole corporate thing. That's a whole other route that you don't really need to plan for that. A used car is a little different. You might not really want a used car to be delivered and just test drove at your house and all the paperwork already signed for. I don't really recommend that. So the
Yeah.
used car can get a little bit more difficult, and used cars are a little bit more difficult to negotiate right now. New cars inventory is stacked up right now, so there's a lot of big discounts on new cars right now, and it's a lot easier to negotiate new cars, and you get a better interest rate too. So new cars currently are kind of the way to go right now.
Is it becoming more and more accepted that people can almost buy cars from being at home and not having to go into the dealership too? Because I would think like if you're, especially with the packages that you offer, do you ever tell people to try to buy them from home if they are set on a car? Because I feel like that might be even easier to negotiate, especially having someone like you in their pocket to know what to look out for.
Oh yeah.
Do you recommend that, or yeah, you do?
No, yeah, no, that's for sure what I recommend. But people, it's wild. And this is why people get in bad car deals. They'll still, like, some people will reach out on a Wednesday through TikTok messages, and my TikTok messages are just flooded. So it's not a very good place to reach me. So, and sometimes I don't see it until maybe Sunday when I'm randomly checking back. And then I'll message them, and then Monday morning they message me back and say, "Oh, I couldn't wait. I went to the dealership and just bought something on Saturday."
Oh no.
And that's how a lot of people do it, and that's how a lot of people get taken advantage of. They think about needing a car on Wednesday. They go to the go to the dealership on Saturday, and then boom, it's like they're in a new car, and they really don't know what happened, but they just get the feeling. So a lot of people don't want to do the due diligence, but that is the best way to get a car deal, is if you have time and you can buy today if the deal is good. But really, I need a car by the end of April or the end of May or something like that. That's the best way to buy a car.
Giving yourself time to not rush into a decision.
Yeah, because then you can see what these dealerships are doing, and then you can shop the dealerships. Like, I just helped a guy buy a Ram truck. He lives in Florida. And we found this thing called the Black Widow package. It's a Black Widow package. It's jacked. It's a Ram truck. That you can do it to any truck, but it's basically a suspension package, some Black Widow emblems, stitching in the vehicle, some cool lift, also exhaust tips. So it's more just a lifted truck, and it's a $10,000 package. And all the dealerships in Florida were trying to sell these cars for like over sticker. All for over sticker. There was one that we found that was the right price, but it had 5,000 miles on it. So it was quote unquote new 2023, even though we're in 24, and there's 24 models with the same thing with no miles. But that's the only one we could find in Florida where they were selling it for the correct price, but it really wasn't. So he went all the way to Oklahoma to buy one of these and actually pay the 5% under MSRP, when everybody in Florida is trying to charge about $10,000 to $15,000. So he saved himself 10 grand by getting a truck in Oklahoma versus buying the same truck in Florida. Because the Florida dealerships are tough. They're like all working in cahoots with each other to a certain extent. And
Really?
it's a tough place to buy cars. And the dock fee. Y'all's dock fee is ridiculous. It's like $1,200, $1,100. A dock fee in Texas is $150.
My dad actually talked about that. He's been to a couple different dealerships since living. He lives in Florida, and he mentioned that one dealership had like somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 of dock fees,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember if it was the same one or not. But they also there was one that had a $2,500 package that was the nitrogen,
Yeah.
sketching, sealant for your car seats, and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these other packages that it's just extra stuff. It probably costs $500, but they're upselling it right for
Right.
2,500.
Yep.
And he's at one now where the dock fee I think is like 300 to 400, which is
Oh, that's
probably
perfect. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
probably like around typical, right? Normal.
Well, in Florida, that's incredible. But like, so, it's so weird because you would think California would be ridiculous dock fees, $85 in Florida, but then you go right across the the border to Nevada and you get to Las Vegas, it's like a $500 or $600 dock fee. So they're in Nevada, their dock fees are a little bit aggressive too. And
That's crazy.
then Florida, and then all the bordering states like Georgia, and I think Alabama's pretty cheap, but it's kind of out there. It's kind of not really Florida. It's only
Mhm.
for the panhandle people. But so a lot of people will go to Alabama and buy vehicles that live in the panhandle because they'll get a better deal. But they'll still pay Florida taxes because it's linked to their address that's on their ID. But
Yeah.
they'll get away from the dock fee. They'll get away from those dealership add-ons and all that weird stuff that goes on in Florida and the surrounding states. They kind of all kind of they know what they're doing because they have all that software. They check people's websites. They see what all these other people are doing, so they just kind of follow suit. Is what I think kind of happens, in my opinion.
Yeah.
With all of that, and it makes sense. I mean, if you're
Quinn,
in business, so.
yeah. And Quinn, you mentioned the services you provide. For everyone that's watching, can you kind of go over what all services you provide and how you're able to help them go through that process?
Yeah, for sure. So I offer 3 levels. The top level is if for people who don't want to do anything. They don't want to do anything. They don't have the time to do a car deal. They want me to do everything for them, and I'll be their negotiator or their car broker. And I charge $997 for that, or $1,000 for that, and I'll do everything. So I just relay the message. I relay the message, relay the numbers. I shop the dealerships. I get your trade value. I do all the negotiation. I do not like doing that. It's not fun doing car deals. That's why people come to me, but I do offer it. But the second level, in my opinion, is the most valuable level for consumers and for most people that they want to be involved. Most people want to be involved because they know they're kind of stuck with this car for 5 or 6 years, and most people have enough time to do it the way the second level can do it. So second level is you send me everything, but you're doing the research yourself. You research the cars. You can send me the cars. I'll double check them. If it's a used car, I'll check the Carfax, look over all that type of stuff. You send me your VIN for your trade appraisal. If you have it, I can double check and get offers in your area for your trade and make sure you negotiate it properly. But I'm the middleman in between you negotiating with your salesperson. So whichever dealership you start talking to, I'll give them my suggestion on maybe dealerships that I see around them. But other than that, you send me everything and then I load your lips or I tell you what to say. And then also the key that the reason why I think the second level works so well is then I'm on call for you. I offer to be on call for you like a doctor when you, your wife, your husband, whoever it is, go into the dealership and you're physically there sitting in front of your salesperson and they're telling you stuff. And maybe the story changed. The story changed from the phone calls, from the text messages you were getting from the same salesperson. But when you go there in person, all of a sudden there's another $1,000 on the numbers or whatever the story is. I'm there on my phone waiting for you. My schedule's blocked off. I'm messaging back and forth. You're taking pictures of the numbers because it's going to usually take 4, 5, 6 set of numbers before you potentially get the best car deal possible for that day on that car because it just changes so much. It's the end of the month is a good time to buy. The end of the year is a good time to buy. It's not a myth. They have to hit quotas. They need to sometimes lose money on one car to make more money from a kickback from corporate or from a bank or whatever. So that, in my opinion, works the best, and it makes the buyer still feel like they have control of what they're doing. They're the next 5, 6 years. But some people don't want that. Some people are just, hey, I need another lease for 3 years. I don't want to do any of it. Here's $1,000. You go do it for me. So that's fine too. The second level is what a lot of people can help them out. And then also what I tell people is if you do this once or twice with me, you're probably going to know how to buy a car for the rest of your life because it's not going to change that much for the foreseeable future. If not, or if anything, just for the better, because they're going to cut salespeople out of the equation and it's going to be the Tesla model and it'll be for the better. But if you do this with me once or twice, you're probably going to know how to buy a car, and they all have money back guarantees as well. And then level 3 is just send me your documents. Send me your documents, your trade value, the car you're looking at. I'll double check everything. I'll do my best to answer every text message and phone call that you have, but I'm not going to be able to guarantee my time, especially when you go into the dealership. I'm not going to block out my schedule. I'm not going to be able to guarantee my time to you with the third level. But the third level can help for somebody that's pretty educated on the subject that just wants a second set of eyes on their numbers to just kind of confirm, like, hey, thumbs up, go ahead and move forward. You did the best you could, because peace of mind, is great in a car deal too. And I wouldn't know this. I had to learn all of this by selling cars. I didn't know any of this, so I completely understand how we just don't get taught. We don't get, and I always tell people, it's like, I have a degree. I didn't learn this in college. Like, this was from experience. So it's not y'all's fault. It's just another thing that we were not taught.
What would you say? Have you ever calculated this or looked at it? Like, what's the average savings you typically save people when they purchase one of your packages?
It depends on if you include the dealership packages. Because if you include dealership packages, it's going to be 3,500 up to like 5,500. It's going to be a pretty big range if you count these dealership packages that really shouldn't even be on there. So if you don't count those, then it's less than that. It depends on if it's a new car or a used car, because the used car market is tough. If it's a new car, it's going to be 5% of MSRP or more. So like 5 to 10% of the MSRP, because you should always be able to get about 4 to 5% off the MSRP of a new car. But it depends on the new car though too, because if you're looking at a Ford Bronco, if you're looking at some of the like a new electric car that came out, even though those are actually starting to drop in price, some cars they're going to be pretty stingy on, and sometimes you have to go out of state. So it does kind of depend on a lot of different variables, but 3,500 to about 5,500. So we can just call it $4,500 on average, including a dealership package that's $2,000. So, or something like that.
That's huge.
That's good.
That's huge for a lot of people. Yeah.
That's shopping around though too. So it's not just like you
Yeah.
go to one dealership and get $4,500 off. It's like, no, we're shopping dealerships. Like we went to one dealership and we couldn't even get a discount. Like they wouldn't give it to us. They didn't want to sell us the car. They didn't want our business. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
So it's not. I always try to tell people that too. It's like this is not a foolproof plan for every dealership, and this doesn't work at every dealership. Because I like to tell people too, it's like we're dealing with humans still. Like this is not AI. These are not robots. Like we are dealing with humans. We're dealing with egos. We are dealing with like a lot of different variables going into this. So this is not just like, don't get mad at me when it doesn't work at the first dealership you go to, because this is not a guarantee. We have to shop around and put dealerships up against each other by getting numbers. We need to get proof and get those numbers. We need to itemize list, and then after you get the best deal possible at this dealership, then you take that proof to the next dealership. And then what's great about that too, because the first like big discount is the hardest to get. It takes forever, like because they're all trying to play hardball. They all want you to come in. They all, sometimes you have to wait 48 hours until they realize, okay, this guy's not coming in. Let's just send them some numbers. Okay, then they send you numbers 48 hours later, and then you can take that to the next dealership, and that's when the piece of paper negotiates for you, because it just starts right there. Like, hey, this dealership right down the street, I already have $3,500 off. If you can beat it, then a lot of the groundwork's already done just by getting this piece of paper with the proof that you've already done some work at another dealership, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why you want to start looking early, like you said. Don't try to buy right away. You want to have some time. I would pay $1,000 to save $3,000 to $5,000. That's a no-brainer.
And it's a guarantee, dude. Like if I don't save you at least $1,000, I will give you your money back. It doesn't matter. So either way, you're protected.
Awesome.
You won't lose $1,000 and not gain 1,000, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And another thing that Renji and I actually just talked about this a couple days ago, but we talked about how when your emotion rises, your logic tends to go down. And so emotionally is how a lot of these car salesmen try to sell you, and you take a test drive and you love the way the car feels and it drives nice. And depending on how old your car is, this might be the nicest vehicle you've sat in 5, 6, 7 years if you had a 6-year loan, So like your emotion goes up and then your logic tends to go down. And that's how some of these dealerships and these car salesmen can, get you into this deal that isn't for your best interest, and doing a lot of the legwork beforehand, working with someone like you, even like the smallest package, with just getting a second set of eyes can be so valuable, because you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes just taking that step back, removing yourself from that moment, and then, and having someone like you come in and look at it and say, hey, you can negotiate this, you can take off this. They're not giving you enough on your trade-in, right? And so that's awesome. And speaking of that, because this might be something else that people don't know, but if they do have a trade-in, they should know ahead of time like how much their car is worth, right, before they go in.
Yes, yeah. I want you to get as many offers as possible on your car. Sitting on your couch. So I'm in works with a really awesome startup company that's a one-stop shop, to where you enter in your information and you actually only have to put your VIN and your mileage to get offers. So all these Carvana, CarMax, Driveway, Pedal, all these online. There's even more than that. There's Algo, another one I can't think of. There's so many of them, but you have to enter in all your information separately on each one of these websites, and then they'll ask you for your email because they gather information, and then they'll send you offers. Some of those places will send your information to dealerships, and local dealerships will reach out to you. Like Kelly Blue Book, if you get an instant cash offer, they're going to sell your information to 3 different dealerships that are local, because Kelly Blue Book doesn't buy cars. They just work with dealerships. So this startup company is all about basically what I've been trying to do, which is protect the consumer. So it's an incredible startup. It's called High Road X. The link is actually in my TikTok if you want to go use my link. It's right there. But it's a really good one that it'll shop all of those online offers at one website. So you only have to enter in the information one time. And then unless you click on an offer, you don't have to actually give your information. You don't have to put your name, your phone number, nothing. So you can
That's
actually
nice.
just check every now and then what your car is worth. If you're thinking about buying a new car, you can kind of keep track of what your car's worth by potentially, or just every now and then checking in with this website and not having to ever put your personal information until you actually click on one of the offers, because you're going to get multiple offers, but they'll be blurred out. So it won't tell you it's from Carvana or from a local dealership or from CarMax, but it will tell you the number that the offer is for. And then once you click on it, that's when you'd enter your information. But the good thing about that is too, only that one offer gets your information. Because I've been telling people to go to CarMax, go to Carvana, go to Pedal, go to Vroom before Vroom went out of business, and enter in all your information. And I was always saying, have a backup email, have a Google Voice number, because you're gonna
Yeah,
get blown up. And that was my best advice to them. So now, after this startup saw me on TikTok Live, they reached out to me, and I was like, dude, this is perfect. This is a
that's
literally
awesome.
perfect product for like how I want to help people, and and then to combat what I've already been teaching people to do, of having backup emails and Google Voice numbers. And then no one did it. No one that would actually go through and get multiple offers, because it would take 5 to 10 minutes on each website. So they would just go to Kelly Blue Book, maybe go to Carvana, and then they'd be done. So this is like an awesome, quick time saver plus privacy saver as well with your info.
For sure.
So
That's cool. That's awesome. What was that one more time? High Road X?
yeah, High Road X.
That's
Mhm.
cool. Cool. And then with that, I just realized we totally haven't even gotten to Turo yet. So maybe we'll do that here quick. And this show is about, wealth building for dummies. We talk a lot about personal finance, and this is something Renji and I have never discussed, and we'll talk about it live. And I'll ask you, Quinn, if somebody comes to you, and I'm sure you've actually probably had this, has somebody ever asked you, should they lease or should they purchase a vehicle? And
Yeah,
I'm
all
curious
the
what
time.
your thoughts are. And Renji, like, you'll give your thoughts and I'll give mine, but let's talk about that, because this is like a personal finance, podcast. So I'll start with you, Quinn. If somebody asks, should you lease or should you purchase a vehicle? What do you say?
So I tell them it's personal. You have to classify yourself, and you have to know, am I a long-term car owner or am I a short-term car owner? And it sounds weird, but a long-term car owner, or I'll say it like this: a short-term car owner keeps cars for 6, 7 years or less, even though that actually seems like a pretty long time. Pretty long time, but really you need to keep a car 7, 8, 9 years plus, to where, because if you remember, 6 years is 72 months. So to really get ahead of, in terms of making money, or not making money, keeping money in your pocket versus
Value.
leasing
Yeah.
every 3 years, you need to keep a car past the time that you own it. So then you get the title from the bank, and you have it 7, 8 more years, because you're 7, 8, 9. That's when you finally start recouping some of the money that you've spent, versus somebody leasing. Because a leaser, you're always covered by the factory warranty. You get a more affordable payment. You can potentially do zero down. I mean, you can potentially do zero down on a purchase too. But there's a lot of, you're covered. You're almost always covered on a lease. So if you are a person that doesn't drive that many miles, if you want a new car every 4, 5, 6 years, because you have FOMO or fear of missing out, or you just like the new gadgets and the new tech, then you are really a short-term car owner. And yeah, you need to do more car deals than what you're currently doing, because maybe you're getting a car every 4 or 5 years. But the thing is, you never own the car. You're just paying for a more expensive rental. Because if you finance a car, you're going to have a higher payment. And then you never own the car because the bank had the title the whole time. So it's just, you can get yourself into hairy, upside down situations. And a lot of people should be leasing and they just don't realize it. And then it could be pretty smooth, because after you start leasing and you find a brand of car that you like, it can be a pretty smooth process to where every 3 years you just kind of in cahoots with the same sales guy. He knows you don't want dealership packages. He knows you don't want to play any games. You just want to come in, sign the paperwork, get out of there and go. And it hedges you on depreciation. You don't have to worry about depreciation if you do get in a scenario. But me, I'm a long-term owner. Like I have a 1995 Cadillac Fleetwood in my driveway right now, and I also have a 97 Mercury Grand Marquis. Like I like the old cars. I like the huge, powerful V8s that were way too big for no reason, that should be in trucks and stuff, because they don't break because they were made too big, and then they're tuned so low. Like I have a V8, 4.6 liter V8 that's pumping out like 260 horsepower. It's like nothing. Like it could be tuned to like pump out 600 horsepower if I wanted to, but so just no strain on the engine whatsoever.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That was a really good answer. Renji, I don't know if you have any, if you want to answer that question too, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I used to say no, never lease a car, but then I've learned there's so many better options out there for leasing now, because when leasing first came out, it wasn't the best option for people. But
Mm-hmm.
like Quinn said, it also depends on your goals, and
Yeah.
it's personal, individualized. It can't, it just like
Mm-hmm.
anything else. You can't, it's not one size fits all. It depends. If you own a business, it might be good for you to lease cars, those could be
Sure.
write-offs too. So there's
Yeah.
different goals you're looking at. And if you own a business, you might want to buy a car in the business to lower your taxes too. So there's different goals there. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it's a one size fits all anymore.
No, yeah. No, I always have to shoot that down when people come into my lives and they're like, you should never purchase. And I'm like that's not true, man. That's really not. Like if
Yeah.
you're
Mhm.
driving 50,000 miles a year, you
You
can't
can't lease.
lease.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. I mean, there's some cars you can lease, but most cars you really can't lease. You're not going to get a 50,000 mile per year lease. It doesn't.
Yeah.
They can do like 30,000 miles, maybe 40,000, but it's still, if you want a luxury car, most luxury cars won't let you do that.
Yeah.
If you're a real estate agent or something that you need to kind of show off a little bit to your clients, they're not going to let you, and you drive all the time, you're not going to be able to get that lease. So at that point, you might
Yeah.
want to purchase a little beater car and then have a nice lease. That's like the two car
Yeah.
situation. But yeah, you can. That's why I made a leasing and purchasing PDF that people can get for free, just because when that question comes up, I just
That's good.
push them to my PDF, because I'm not going to, I need to know way more detail about your personal life choices before I give you a suggestion on that. But I'll tell them what I just told you. Cheaper
Yeah.
payment, covered by warranty. I'll give you that. Like,
Yeah.
here's the fundamentals of a lease, and then here's a purchaser. And then I'll tell them, like, hey, it sounds like I'm just promoting leases, but I'm a long-term buyer. I own my cars. I have the titles. So I'm not just sitting here
Yeah.
trying to push leases, even though it kind of sounds like I am, but not exactly.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, like, I've got a very similar answer and thought process too. Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with leases because everything is always protected. There's never going to
Mhm.
be a surprise for any out-of-pocket expense if something breaks down,
Exactly.
but some people may want to keep cars for, 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And if that's you, obviously it doesn't make sense to lease, and
No.
that's the way to have a car purchase make a lot of sense financially because, like you said, once it's paid off, you've got no payments and you're recouping some of
Yeah.
the extra expense you would have had to owning the car. So
Mhm.
absolutely, then you don't have any payments, but I would say, I don't know, like who mentioned, somebody mentioned FOMO, and you're right. Too
Yeah.
often now, the newest car comes out, their friends get it, other people are showing it off on
Yeah.
social media, so people are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and happens way too often. But if that's you, just lease them, and then you're
Yeah.
always going to have a brand new car. You can, leasing does typically have cheaper payments.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, you're never going to have any out of pocket or surprise expenses in the future,
Yeah.
which is going to be really good financially for you too.
And
So,
then another thing that people don't realize is that if you fall in love with that car 3 years later, you can buy it out.
yeah, that's true.
Like, you don't have to return it, because some people, and then even if you're bad at making decisions, but you have to have a car, you could lease one and just be like, okay, well, this is cool. Like, if I hate this car, I'm only stuck with it for 3 years. And then usually you can get out of it a little bit early. So not exactly 3 years, like 2.5 years in, or 2 years and 3/4 in. So
Yep.
that's what I try to tell people too. Like, if you fall in love with it, don't worry, just buy it out, even though that's typically not the best option. But if you can do it that way as well. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I try to tell people just not to. But I mean, I don't know. I get why people get so nervous. It's a big purchase, like Kyle was talking about. It is the second biggest purchase in most people's life, and then in some people's life, it's the first biggest purchase if they're renting and have never bought real estate. So it makes
For
sense.
sure.
Mhm.
And let's do this.
Yeah.
So we've got maybe about 5 minutes or so to wrap up. We have done podcasts where we talk about, different ways of building wealth and starting businesses. You've done a great job starting your business using your knowledge, right? And basically becoming a consultant or a coach, helping people go through transactions. You've also done a little bit of Turo. And we've talked about it before. We've had people mention, that Turo is a side business that they can start, allows people to have some additional income, some additional, things to write off. You did it. Share with us your experience. And we were talking a little bit pre-show about like the way that you would, I think you said like the only way to, I guess the most profitable way to run
Yeah.
a Turo business. So share your insights on your experience in Turo, and let's see if we can do it about 120 seconds or so.
So the most profitable way to do Turo would be with a rare car. So you could search your local Turo before you even purchased a car. If that's all you wanted to do is purchase a car to get into Turo business, and try to buy a car that's not on your local Turo. Obviously, if you're in Atlanta versus LA versus Austin, there's going to be completely different cars. There's tons of supercars in Miami, in Atlanta, and LA that are already on Turo. And there's some in Austin too. But you want to get the most rare car, whether it's electric, luxury, or supercar. I would say luxury or up, supercar, something that you can put on there for high dollar, for top dollar. And then also there's one other hack that I didn't think of earlier, and it would be to get just a beater truck, like a little beater truck. So not a big one, because
Like a Ranger.
exactly, a Ford Ranger, because people get intimidated by the big trucks. Like, think about like maybe just anyone who's never driven a truck. They have a Honda Civic and their dad never owned a truck, or whatever their story is. You could get a little truck to rent, because people just have to move a dresser or move a bed or just something across town for that day, and they need a truck bed, but they don't want this mammoth truck. And then if you could get it off of not Craigslist,
Facebook.
Facebook or Craigslist, and get a little beater truck, which I've thought about getting for $1,500, and then you just throw it on Turo for something relatively cheap, $20 a day or something. But it gives them an option to be in Austin and to be able to move some furniture around without having to pay movers to do it, if that makes sense. That's the only other way I've thought about potentially getting a car and putting it on Turo. Supercar or Ford Ranger.
There you go. That's cool. Awesome. So good insight there. And I'll tell you what, Quinn, this has been I knew you were going to bring some value, but I didn't know that you were going to drop, this many nuggets. And I want to first say, thank you for what you do, and I love your business model, and it can really help a lot of people, because I've heard and I've seen, nightmare stories about what happens when people go to dealerships and how
Yeah.
they can get ripped off, So couple questions just to kind of wrap us up. Was there any question that you wish we would have asked, and or any other tips that maybe we didn't talk about that you want to leave with our viewers for today?
The main thing is, it's kind of, buying a car is kind of like a sales job, which I know a lot of people don't like sales, but just be ready for failure. Be ready for the dealership not to give you what you're asking, and that's okay. Just move to the next dealership. That dealership doesn't want your business right now, doesn't want your business on that car. that we just need to go to the next dealership. It's not your fault. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not asking too much. It's just that dealership's not going to sell you that car for what you're asking. And that's not a problem. We just need to move on to the next dealership, get multiple offers. And the more offers you get, the more they're going to be willing to work with you. And that's just the name of the game. Multiple offers, competitive, just competing against each other. And that's going to make the price go down. And it works way better for new cars than it does for used cars. Because you got to think about it. You're not going to find two of the exact same used cars typically at different dealerships. That's why they can always throw something at you. Oh, well, this one's red. Oh, well, this one has 20,000 more miles. Oh, well, this one has 4-wheel drive. That's why it's a lot easier to play that game with a new car. So just keep that in mind.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only one of
That's
that
so
one
much-
car with that mileage. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can still do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's hard. But and then at that point, you still need to find comparable models that can be all over the U.S. and then try to say, hey, well, they're selling it for this price over here, and see what you can do. But it's just not going to work quite as well because there's always something a little different between these used cars typically.
That's awesome.
Sure.
And they're going to hold it
Yeah,
against you
this
because they're
really good
salespeople.
advice. Yeah, really, a lot of value that you're providing, Quinn. Thank you so much. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on and providing value for everyone that's watching.
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you this: what is one of the best advice you ever received before? It could be business or personal.
Some of the best advice I've ever gotten, because it's just like start and go. Like you're never gonna be ready. Like you will never be ready. I've heard it probably from multiple people, but it's just if you think you're gonna have everything ready, your business is perfectly ready. You have your funnel, your website, all your social medias. I mean, if you do have that, then awesome. Like let's go. But most of the time, people are just waiting to be ready, and they're always have an excuse. I'm not ready yet. I'm not very good at speaking. No one wants to listen to me. Whatever your not ready excuse is, like just start going and you're going to figure it out. And that's basically what happened to me on accident. Like I said, one of the first video that I posted went pretty viral and I was not ready with any offer, but people wanted my assistance. So I was like, okay, let's go. So obviously I could have made more money if I was ready,
Yeah,
but let's just go, just get started and go.
yeah. You're still gonna learn and go through it as you take action. But if you don't take
Yeah.
action, you're never gonna get there, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
inversely, what's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
Um, the worst advice, it would have to be, I don't know verbatim the words, but it would have to be just selling cars. Like lie to the customer. The buyers are liars is one of the things that they would say. Buyers are liars. And I was not raised that way. I was raised in Texas and I was raised by a really good family, in my opinion, that it was just, you don't name call, you don't bear false witness, AKA like gossip and talk behind people's back. And you just don't lie. Like if you just don't. So that's the worst. Yeah. Go lie to them basically, even though they wouldn't say that, but hey, go tell them this. Hey, go tell them this. And when I got older in my sales career of selling cars, I would turn around to my manager and be like, I'm not going to go tell them that. You go tell them that. And they would never get up. The manager would never get up out of their chair to go tell them that lie that they wanted me to tell that poor old lady on Social Security who's trying to get her one fully loaded red Cadillac for her lifetime and, treat herself. And we're going to try to overcharge her $100 per month because she doesn't know what she's doing. And it's like, I'm not doing it. If you want to tell her that, come on, I'll go with you. I'll stand behind you, but that's not coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. So lie to make a sell would be the worst advice I've gotten.
That's good. No, I mean, I think that's great advice that you don't do it because
Yeah.
people can tell with your genuinity, right? They can tell if you're lying or not most of the time. And if they know you're not lying a lot more, there's a higher chance of them working with you, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they know you're not fake and you're being real. So
Yeah.
that's good.
And multiple people said that to me after they bought a car. Like,
Yeah.
hey man, I bought a car from you because I could tell you're like shooting me straight. Like thank you for doing that. So Because like if they wanted to leave, I know
That's awesome.
I mean, car salesmen are going to trash me, but it's like if we did everything and they wanted to leave, I did my best. Like I did all I could. I'm not going to high pressure sell these people until they'd never come back. And every time I did, because my
Yeah.
manager wanted me to, and they knew something I didn't, and we really needed to sell that car or something, every time I high pressure sold them and it didn't work, I never could get a hold of that customer ever again. It was just ghost mode because they were disrespected. And I didn't, it's just too disrespectful. Just wasn't raised that way. I'm not doing it. So
It's crazy.
I got out.
I feel like car sales, now obviously I'm not this old, but I feel like car sales, like the sales strategies just haven't changed over the last 20, 30, 40 years either. Probably a better question for my dad, who's been in the industry for 30 years.
And in Florida too, yeah, because it's cutthroat in Florida, so he has good experience.
Yeah.
But if he's at a $300 dock fee dealership in Florida, I can already tell you that's a good dealership just from my experience.
Yeah.
The lowest I've seen is it's either $499 or $599 in Florida, and it was a good one. It was a great one. No dealership extras. The rebate was right there already from corporate, because sometimes you have to search the rebate and make sure confirm that they're doing it correctly and all that stuff. So if he's at a $300 dock fee in Florida, that's a good dealership for sure.
I'll have to double check with him then, because maybe it's not 300, but he did tell me it was much less than what his other dealership was. I thought I remember the number.
No, either way, because they're usually in California, in Florida, they're all $1,000, $9,999, $1,200, $1,195. They're all $1,000. So if it's around that range, then it's a typical. They're trying to kind of get you for everything you got. They're going to have another dealership package on there. A lot of weird stuff, but yeah, if it's anywhere near if it's anywhere near $500 in Florida, that's a really good dock fee for Florida, like really good.
Awesome.
Good to know.
Quinn, I'll tell you what, man, thank you so much for jumping on here. You've dropped a lot of wisdom and a lot of good knowledge, coming from your experience being in car sales. I love what you're doing, because you're really helping people, and that's exactly what we want to do with our podcast, teach people, not only ways to build wealth, but, ways to be smarter with money, and of course, ways to save money. Right. And if you guys ever need to get in touch with Quinn to have him help you with your next car purchase, Quinn, where can they find you at?
So Moneyman Quinn, just like it sounds, Moneyman, and then QU, or you're going to put it on the screen probably, but Moneyman Quinn, but Instagram. Let's go Instagram for the direct messages. My TikTok direct messages are flooded, hard to keep up with it. A lot of robots in there. But if you get me on Instagram, Moneyman Quinn, direct message me, comment on one of my videos, and I will be able to see it very quickly and reach out to you.
I love it. Awesome. So you guys get in touch with Quinn, let him help you purchase, lease, whatever, your next vehicle, right? Like he says, he has built in a guarantee. If he can't help you save that amount that you pay it back, he'll refund it to you and give it back to you. But I'm pretty confident just with some of the strategies he talked about, I would say there's almost a guarantee he will not, if not save you the amount you pay, it's probably going to be double to triple that. The strategies that he says, because it puts you in the driver's seat rather than the dealership. And knowing from, talking to Quinn a little bit, before the show, you come onto the dealership floor, you come on the dealership lot, they treat it as if you're buying a car that day. That's their mentality. So they're in the driver's seat. It's not you. But with some of the strategies Quinn has talked about, that's how you can take control of the sale and, get the car of your dreams while not being overcharged for it. Right. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys for tuning in. Drop in the comments below any questions that you have. Leave us your thoughts. And if you thought this video was helpful and it's going to save you thousands of dollars the next time you go buy a car, make sure to share it with a friend, share it with a colleague, neighbor, anybody you know that's potentially in the car market, because just even with this video by itself, even if you don't hire Quinn, I am fairly confident you'll be able to save at least $500. So this is probably our most valuable show that we've done so far, as far as, somebody can take this info, apply it tomorrow, and, get a better deal with your next car purchase. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Everybody take care.